Good morning, everyone. My name is Dana. My supervisor is Dr. Chu. Today, I will share my research topics of forecasting with mixed frequency of GDP using leading indicators in United States. For the table of content, I will start with the problem statement and then move to research questions and research objectives. And I will start to discuss the significance of studies and the research framework. And then we'll move to the methodologies and the data result. And finally, I will do a conclusion about my research and give some suggestion for the future research. For the problem statement, nowadays, societies need competitive statistics to solve the real-time macroeconomics problems, but the world's most important economic variables still have lags. For example, the gross domestic product, which is the GDP. And the second is a difficulty in studying the time series data have always been availability problems because of the different frequencies. During the research process, the many potential informations may be deleted, which can make the relationship between the variables is hard to detect, or the result will may be under-biased. But for the MIDAS, which is mixed data sampling models, this model actually is used to forecast the low frequencies, such as GDP, by higher frequencies data like weekly, monthly, or quarterly forecasts. So this kind of models can solve these time lags problems and between some economics variables. For the research questions, the main research question is about how good is the forecasting method for the forecasting the United States GDP. We also will try to find the relationship between the independent variable and the dependent variable. For the independent variable is the saving, employment, housing start, and consumption. The dependent variable is the GDP. The last research question is trying to find, is there any difference performance of the 5 types of MIDAS models? And for the research objectives is almost the same like the research questions. Our main purpose of this study actually is to evaluate the forecasting model of forecasting the GDP of the United States. And the model we will be using is random walk, historic average method, simple moving average method, autoregressive model, and mixed data sampling method. And we also will finding the relationship between the saving, the employment, the house start, and the consumptions on the GDP in the United States. We also try to finding the difference between the performance of the 5 types of MIDAS. For the significance of study, the first group that might interesting with these topics is economists and the investors, because the production and the growth of the economy represented by the GDP, and they have a great influence by all the part of the economies. And the GDP as the measures of the whole economics, and this kind of features can explain the changes and how it affects the stocks and the investment. The second group will be the governments and the statisticians, because this kind of forecasting models are very important for governments because it can serve more information, and it also can help country to make plannings or better decisions according to different problems. Another group will be the policymakers, because policymakers can use the real GDP's growth to evaluate the economic performance, so which can help the policymakers to understand things and have more information to doing the policy when they need to solve some problems. Next is about the framework. In this research, I will using the random walk, mixed data samplings, naive variance forecasts, moving average, autoregressive models to forecast GDP. And for this mixed data samplings, they have 5 different weighting ways, and they are step weighting, amount, exponential amount, beta weighting, and U-MIDAS. We also add some independent variables, which saving, employment, house, and consumptions. And we try to find the relationship between these 4 independent variables and the GDP. We also will using the 4 independent variables data to forecasting the GDP. For the methodologies, this is the forecasting model, which is the formulas for the 5 models. And then I will say more about the data source. All the data in this research is secondary data, and all this data, no matter monthly or quarterly data, is all from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is a very official website from the United States. And the data time period, I choose very long time, which is 1965 to 2019. But the data that I use is choosing the part of this time period. For the evaluation method, I use MAE and RMSE to evaluation the result for the in-sample and post-op samples. And during the process of analyze, I will use EView and Excels. Next, let's move to the result. The first will be the in-sample forecasting result. From these tables, we can clearly say the top 3 rankings is happening in the AR model, AR1, AR3, and AR5. Beside these AR models, another top ranking is all in the progress in the MIDAS. So, but it's very hard for us to finding which MIDAS have better performance. So I decided to doing a deeper research and only focus on the MIDAS. So this table is showing the 5 different weighting methods of MIDAS. But the result of MAE and RMSE is quite different. From MAE, we can say the ranking 1 is the MIDAS for which is exponential Elmer weightlings. But for the RMSE, the ranking 1 is the Elmer weightlings, the MIDAS 2. So this is the result for in-samples. Let's move to the out-of-sample forecasting result, and this part is very important for my research. From these tables, and on the left side is the MAE, and the right side is the RMSE. From this table, we can clearly say the ranking 1, ranking 2, ranking 3, almost all the ranking 10 is in the MIDAS models. And we actually can conclude from this kind of result because the table already shows the analyzed result already shows the MIDAS actually performs the best among all these models in the post samples. And we still want to trying to find which weighting method of MIDAS have the best performance. So we continue doing these tables. This table is showing just like the in-sample just now, but this time for the MAE and RMSE, the result is perfect because the top rankings and the second rankings is exponential amount and step weightlings. And this kind of result is showing consistencies of this research. So it's very clear to see that the exponential amount weightling is the top, is the best performing forecasting model in the MIDAS. Next, we will move to the relationship between the dependent variable and independent variables. Because we already conclude the best forecasting model for the post samples is the MIDAS. So during the relationship analysis, I choose MIDAS as the forecasting models. So there are 5 MIDAS. For the 5 MIDAS, every weighting way is actually showing a significant result between the GDP and the savings. And it's also have the same result between the GDP and the employment. Even the consumption rates and the GDP actually showing a positive, actually showing a very positive, significant relationship between these 2 variables. And for the house start, except UMIDAS showing insignificant result, but another 4 weighting methods actually showing a significant result. So this is the author's relationship between the dependent variable and the independent variables. So I will doing a conclusion for the result in my research. The best forecasting model for the GDP in United States is the mixed data sampling, which is the MIDAS in the post samples. And there is significance between all the independent variable and the dependent variables. The independent variable, which is saving, employment, housing, and consumptions, they all have the significant impact. And another conclusion is about the MIDAS. We're finding the best forecasting model for the MIDAS for forecasting the GDP in United States is exponential alpha weightlings, which in the post samples. And that is all the conclusion about my research result. And for the future research, I hope that I can use more advanced forecasting model, for example, like GARCH and STAS. And I actually want to collect more informations, for example, like the data more likely daily or weekly data, because this kind of higher frequency data will cover more information. So this kind of information may providing a new result or providing a new implication for me to do my future research. And that's all for my presentations. Thank you. And any questions?